Welcome to Saito, Episode 8. Let's kick off this explainer by untangling the economic mechanisms that are quite literally powering the next generation of decentralized infrastructure. If you've ever wondered why so many blockchain networks eventually just end up relying on massive centralized tech companies to keep the lights on, well, you are absolutely in the right place. Throughout today's explainer, we're going to be thorough, logical, and concise as we explore a fundamentally different approach to blockchain economics. We're talking about a model that actually pays for the open infrastructure it uses, rather than just free riding. So here is our roadmap for today. 1. The digital value problem. 2. Web3's tragedy of the commons. 3. Proof of transaction explained. 4. Routing work and open scaling. 5. The Saito token economy. And finally 6. Applications and Web3 gaming.
All right, diving right in. Section 1, the digital value problem, measuring real work.
Let's contrast two completely different realities on the web today. On one side, think about the massive fallout from Instagram's 2026 purge, right? Millions of fake bot accounts were just wiped out overnight. That was an entire digital economy built entirely on the illusion of value. Now flip that over. Think about Amazon Mechanical Turk. That platform operates on the exact opposite principle. They are paying actual humans to perform discrete, verifiable tasks that computers just kind of fail at. So the internet is constantly battling this fake, automated inflation, while at the same time desperately searching for reliable ways to measure and reward real, verifiable work.
Moving to Section 2, Web3's tragedy of the commons, the infrastructure dilemma.
We see this exact measurement problem bleed directly into Web3. It's the classic tragedy of the commons, or the free rider problem. Here's what happens. Participants use the network to process data for their own personal benefit, which ends up bloating the blockchain massively in size. But, and here's the kicker, these users have zero incentive to actually pay for the user-facing infrastructure. They just refuse to invest because they know they can freely ride off the volunteer nodes that other people are running. It's basically like eating all the pizza at a party and then refusing to chip in when the bill arrives.
And what about those well-meaning volunteer nodes? Well, they eventually get completely priced out. They shut down as bandwidth and storage costs absolutely skyrocket. And what happens next is pretty alarming. Public blockchains are left totally at the mercy of one or two centralized monopolies that can actually afford to run massive server farms. We're seeing networks like Ethereum end up heavily reliant on centralized choke points, like Infura. And honestly, that completely undermines the entire decentralized promise of Web3 in the first place.
Which brings us to Section 3. Proof of transaction explained, a new consensus.
You see, traditional models have some major blind spots. Proof of work, that pays for hardware and energy, which inevitably leads to centralized mining pools. Proof of stake pays for staked wealth, and that often results in a tiny, exclusive club of wealthy, controlling nodes. But Saito introduces something entirely different, proof of transaction. Instead of paying for energy or wealth, it uniquely pays for the real, measurable value of routing data to users. It literally pays the nodes that are doing the heavy lifting to keep the infrastructure open and accessible to the public.
So how does this actually work in practice? Well, the crucial point is that Saito's proof of transaction prevents inflation and ensures absolute fairness through an elegant, self-regulating mechanism known as the golden ticket system. Here is the step-by-step. First, nodes collect routing work, and that's derived directly from user transaction fees. Now, when a node produces a block, they can collect the difference between the included routing work and the required work. But to actually unlock those unallocated fees for the rest of the network, a golden ticket puzzle has to be solved by hashing the block. Once somebody finds it, those funds are equitably unlocked and split right down the middle between the block producers and the routing nodes.
Let's move to Section 4, routing work and open scaling, securing the network.
The underlying mechanics of this routing work are brilliant in their simplicity. Because routing work mathematically decreases in value with every single network hop a transaction takes, nodes are financially incentivized to find the fastest, most efficient path possible. They don't hoard transactions, they share them. Furthermore, because adding fake hops immediately kills the profitability of a transaction, it completely eliminates Sybil attacks, where, a user creates fake identities just to game the system. And what if a bad actor decides to launch a 51% attack to overtake the chain? Well, the protocol forces them to pay entirely out of their own pockets to generate enough routing work. The cost of an attack becomes highly quantifiable, and it is always a financial loss for the attacker. No way around it.
Let's look at Section 5, the Saito token economy, value circulation.
We can actually track this exact token flow to prove that a truly open network isn't just a pipe dream, it's possible. Applications pay the transaction fees. Those fees are then distributed directly to the routing nodes and security providers. Advertisers or network operators can then take tokens and provide them right back to the users in exchange for their attention or their data. This completely bypasses the need for a massive corporate middleman tracking your every move. It's a very healthy, entirely closed economic loop.
And this economic loop is governed by a default network pay split of exactly 0.5. What this means is that when a golden ticket is solved, the reward is split 50-50. Half goes straight to the miners securing the block, and the other half goes to the routers who actually delivered the traffic. This balance prevents either side from monopolizing the network's resources.
Finally, Section 6. Applications and Web3 Gaming, Real-World Use.
The Saito arcade is such a prime example of this theory running perfectly in the wild. It handles the complex, incredibly data-heavy interactions required for games like poker, chess, and board games, and it does it all running entirely peer-to-peer. By using sophisticated cryptographic tools for trustless bidding and escrow, the arcade proves that gaming can genuinely thrive without monopolistic gatekeepers like Steam stepping in to take a massive cut of the revenue.
Beyond gaming, open applications like SkyPanda demonstrate the massive commercial viability of this network. SkyPanda is actively building an open marketplace on Saito that helps small producers bypass massive, centralized e-commerce monopolies in China. By utilizing the network, these producers can connect directly with consumers. They manage provenance, reputation, and eventually cryptocurrency payments, all on a trustless, fully decentralized platform. It's a real game changer.
Looking ahead at the development roadmap, we can easily trace Saito's clear and methodical evolution here. Year 1 is all about expanding their Web3 gaming engine into a much broader standard. From there, the focus in Year 2 shifts heavily to attracting communities and infrastructure providers to scale up the public network. Year 3 brings the release of significantly improved developer SDK tooling to speed up application creation. And ultimately, in Year 4, they're focused on facilitating public sales and providing robust infrastructure support for other blockchains, like Polkadot parachains. I'll leave you with this provocative thought to wrap up our explainer today. If Web3 is truly meant to be decentralized, can it ever actually succeed if its core network infrastructure remains totally monopolized by Web2 corporate giants? The economics of Saito strongly suggest that unless we fundamentally change how we pay for the routing of data, true decentralization is just going to remain an illusion. But by directly paying the nodes that actually serve the users, a self-sustaining, truly open internet might just be within our reach. Thanks so much for learning with us today.